Well, I don't see anybody on the screen that is not a regular member, so I guess we'll skip the introductions for new people. I don't see anybody on the screen that is not a regular.
Okay, you can start, Joe.
All right. Well, welcome everyone. It's hard to believe it's February already. I indicated I didn't see any new faces. If we do have any new guests, please speak up and we'll get you introduced.
Next time will come.
Okay. Well, winter has definitely arrived, except for today. I thought it was pretty decent out there. I want to thank all those that sent photos for the winter challenge. We'll see those a little bit later. A few reminders before we get into the main events for the evening. Our topic for the year is, again, Community Spotlight. That's going to be an event that we'll have in, I think, June. If you haven't been working on something, might be a good time to get started. I'm optimistic we'll have some pretty good input on that as we get our information to Jane, and then she'll be able to put together one of her dazzling slideshows like she does every year. A community spotlight, what could that be? That could be just about anything. Anybody have any ideas or what they think community spotlight would mean and how we can pull this off as our annual show? Well, I've already done mine. I sent it to Jane last month on a Wednesday after the meeting. I think I already had mine completed. It was from a fall trip down to the southwestern part of the state, and just browsed through that little town and put together 8 or 9 little slides that kind of shows what it's about. So maybe you can use that as somewhat of a motivator. If you're from some of those small towns nearby, well, let's see what they're all about.
Yeah, I'm thinking that it would be like a main street, maybe a couple buildings, some of the activities that go on in the area.
That could be a good way to look at it. I know West Bend had their big ice downtown ice show this weekend. I've heard some people got over that way. I don't know if they were avid photographers, but they were friends of mine, and they said it was quite a little event. So those are the kind of things that, that might shine a light on some nearby community. So that's a challenge. Let's try to get that in as quick as we can to Jane, and then so she's not doing all the work at the last minute. Is that right, Jane, or do you mind?
No, anytime is good.
Okay.
We're looking for 8 images, 2100 by 2100, and they could be smaller. It just gets shown on the screen, so the size doesn't in particular matter.
Okay.
Generally speaking, you can send 5 at a time without any trouble. I suppose depending on your connection, but 8 is the top number. I won't critique them. So whatever you send is what gets put in the slideshow.
Okay, super.
But Jesse and I were out today, and we got a few highlights from area communities. So
okay. Well, we got a busy couple of weeks, months coming up. March, we have a program with Lewis Katz. I think it's going to be a good one. The Art of Seeing, Perspective and Perception. Also in March, we have the Jason Odell WACO seminar. More details on that are in the newsletter. I understand there's a March or February 11th deadline to get the $15 rate, and it goes up to 20 thereafter. More details can be found in the newsletter. I think it pretty well explains everything that's going on. April, we have Hank Erdman. I love the topic, representational or artistic photography. You don't have to choose. Well, I guess that's good. we just make a decision and take a picture and hope it comes out like we want. May, I think we have Hazel Meredith working with textures and overlays. I think Jesse Bukos is our expert in that area. I think she's the one that recommended that person. If we can learn anything from that workshop to be able to emulate some of the stuff that Jesse has done, it'd be fantastic. I think she'll probably lay on top of what Jesse presented maybe, what was it, about 6 or 8 months ago. But I'm looking forward to that one as well. Now we've got a field trip coming up here sometime in February. Ken or Jane, you want to jump in and tell us where we are on that possible field trip?
Yeah, Jane and I were talking about that this morning or this afternoon. And we're thinking of Saturday, February 12th as a target date for the meeting in Port Washington. And we can send out more details about where to meet and what, and this will be hopefully a sunrise shoot. So we probably need to be there right around 6:30 or a few minutes before. And, Jeff Ewig has been out there. He's had posted some really nice photos from there, and Jen and Jesse stopped by there today. So we're hoping things will work out for February 12th. I don't expect any snow before then. It doesn't look too good that direction. But hopefully it'll start getting cold again, and maybe we'll get cold enough to get those that foggy mist blowing towards the lighthouse.
So you're looking for 0 weather, right?
That would be preferred. We'd like really cold, but and I did notice the next 10 days are going to be pretty much in the 20s for the highs, and so we've got some warm days coming up, and we, if things look like it's not going to work out, then we may postpone that and try the following weekend. But right now we're going to shoot for the 12th.
All right. Well, let's see if we can all make it this time, one day at a time.
All right.
Another big event coming up here shortly is the digital forum run by Jeff for WACO. I always find that to be just the best couple hours on a Saturday morning. You can check the newsletter for more details, time, date, place. I think the next one is 10 o'clock on the 26th. So
yeah, that sounds about right.
All right. Jeff, you have any other news from WACO and PSA at this time?
No, not really.
Well, we have the spring contest. Anybody want to jump in on that with a little more information?
Well, yeah, the spring competition will open in February 5th. And you'll be able to upload the 2 categories. Special categories are Wisconsin landscapes for nature and tabletop for open, a special theme. Deadline is April 17th for getting the images in, and then we will they'll be judged, and then the final round of judging will happen that Saturday, the first Saturday in May. I think that's May 7th, if I remember right.
All right. I'm sure we'll have more details in the newsletter before
There'll be
too long.
more, yeah, there'll be a lot more details in the newsletter next month. That's when I was planning on doing that.
Yeah,
But
this
Joe,
is
while
sort
you're
of,
at it,
yeah,
I'm
this is
sorry.
a pre-announcement because we have the delegates meeting this Saturday, and then all that information will get out to everybody.
Okay.
And we'll get the info sheet out to everyone by the next meeting. And nothing too much in chapter, PSA chapter. I've just, Marty, you know who the speaker is, right? Because you got her. Didn't you
Yeah.
get that?
For the March meeting, there'll be a gentleman named Willie Pruitt. He's actually a member of Focal Point Camera Club, but he it's a rough job. He gets to travel the world and be paid for it. And in his travels, he does some pretty amazing street photography. He really gets to know the local culture and kind of gets to areas that aren't the most touristy, let's just say. So I found his talk at our meeting a few weeks ago just fascinating, as did the rest of our members. And I thought the chapter members would really appreciate and understand and really enjoy what he's been doing. So he is our speaker.
All right. Oh, one of the, before the meeting officially started, we were talking about a July event for club members over in Menomonee Falls. I'm wondering if we could find a couple of volunteers that would like to assist. Probably, we're going to have the location, but I'd like to have a couple of people to work with that can ensure we pull this off. Anybody want to jump in and say, I'm with you? Pat,
So did you
raise your
actually
hand?
tell everybody what the plan is?
Not totally. Let me just go
Because I
over
don't
it.
think everybody understands what we're
Okay.
all of a sudden doing, because we have
Well-
moved the show and tell, the slideshow up till June. And
That's,
I don't know if everybody caught that.
Okay, at the last board meeting, we discussed the possibility of trying to pull together an event in July where members in the area that are able to attend would come together at a park in Menomonee Falls to have either, and we're not sure what we want it to be. It could be a white elephant sale, it could be an ice cream social, it could be just about anything we want it to be. And that's why, excuse me, that's why I'd like to have a couple of people to work with that can help define what we want this event to be. You know, it's great having Zoom, seeing everybody's face this way, but I always think it's better if we could get together face to face, say hello, keep social distance if we're still required to do that, and share what we're up to and come together as a club like we used to do over at the community center. It would be July the 12th, begin somewhere around 6 o'clock, maybe go for an hour, a couple hours, depending on weather and things of that nature. The one drawback, I think no beer is allowed, no liquor. So it'd have to be ice cream and social. And that's about it. So if anybody who does want to
So it'd be-
join, I'm sorry. I thought somebody spoke up.
It would be, yeah, it would be like, we would be at our meeting. There was no liquor involved when we met at the community center anyway. So it would just be outdoors, and we'd be able to shoot, I think, before we had the get together start at 6.
Yeah.
So with the face-to-face time, so there would be time to take photos, and we could do some of our other things. So we're kind of planning tentatively to be able to see the 3D people. I mean, instead of all these flat screen surfaces. So we'll do that. I mean, thinking of doing that.
Yeah.
Well, in fact, I'm going to be renting the shelter tomorrow. It's shelter number 1 in Rotary Park, if you're familiar with Rotary Park. It's right next to the river, Menomonee River right there, and it's on the Fond du Lac side. You'd enter the park parking lot from Fond du Lac, Old Fond du Lac Avenue. And we would have the shelter there, and there's some bathrooms there and plenty of parking. And
Okay.
picnic tables and a place to sit on the park in case, even if it rains, we still can be under the shelter.
Okay.
But hopefully by July 12th, it'll be warm enough outside for all of this, so.
Well, if anybody wants to reach out to me, my address and email and phone number are in the newsletter. Please do so. I don't want to do all the work by myself, but I'd like to see this pull off. it's just good to be a part of a club that is so active, and maybe we can continue to be that way face to face. The President's
Joe?
Challenge for
Is
the
that
month.
is that in place of the July 5th meeting or in addition to?
I couldn't hear it. I'm sorry.
Is that in place of July 5th meeting or in addition to?
I think it'd be in addition to. What date is that, Pat?
The 12th is a Tuesday also.
Yeah, I think the
Oh.
plan,
Pat, your microphone's off.
Yeah, it was the 12th that we were talking about
Yeah.
because we were talking
Right.
about not having the camera club meeting on the 5th because of it being the day
Fifth.
after
Right.
4th of July.
So
So
this
the
would be
actual meeting would be the 12th. So
Okay.
kind of be a social meeting
Okay.
together.
Okay.
what day is the 12th, Pat?
It's a Tuesday.
Tuesday?
Yes, the following Tuesday
Okay.
from what we would have normally had the camera club meeting on.
Okay.
Now, just so everybody knows, a meeting notice will go out for July 5th because I don't have a way to cancel that. So you will get a Zoom notice that there would be a meeting July 5th. Now, I don't know, we have a number of people that aren't in the area. Would you guys want me to still hold that meeting on the 5th? I can do that. I don't know what we talk about, but we could do that for the people that are out of town or.
gonna say we don't have a program for it at the moment.
Yeah.
We
I
can whip
think that-
something up.
I think those out-of-town people ought to travel to Wisconsin for the meeting on the 12th in the park.
Well, maybe we can have a short
agree.
meeting on the 5th to advertise the meeting on the 12th.
I
will
will
make,
probably start the meeting on the 5th and just tell everybody that the meeting has been moved to the 12th for the people that may show up that
Okay.
don't hear about it. And if I come up with something, since I can't make the 12th, I can still do something on the 5th, so.
All right.
I can also make sure I hit it pretty hard that there will be no July 5th meeting and
Yeah.
that it has been moved to the 12th. So I don't think that's,
Gonna be a problem.
no, it shouldn't be.
Okay. Well, I look forward to hearing from a couple of you at least. All right.
Okay. Joe, we need a show and tell person for the March meeting if,
We need one
Anybody wants
person
to-
for show and tell.
yeah.
Any volunteers? I don't see any hands going up. Hey, there's Christopher.
Well,
Christopher Ladani. Did you get that, Ellen?
okay.
All right.
Yeah,
We got him.
because we may have a problem with people who are going to speak on June 7th, because I don't know if there'll be time for the show and tell, simply because that's when our slideshow is going to be. So I think Jim Kurvowski and Patty
slideshow-
Grin will.
The slideshow is usually what, 15 minutes max?
Okay,
I think
We'll be
we're
okay.
okay.
We
there'll be
actually
time.
need to come up with filler for
Okay.
June
Yeah.
because otherwise it's going to be a very short meeting.
okay, all right. Put on your dancing shoes. Okay, folks. Anybody have ideas, send them.
All right. Before we go to show and tell, tips and hints and the program, is there anything else anyone else wants to bring up before we move on? All right. The one thing I'm going to pull off here shortly is I'm going to.
Wait, I have one more thing. I'm sorry, Joe. I have one more thing.
Go ahead.
I think Linnea asked something about, she would like to know, and we can either address this in the newsletter. What is the resolution of the photos that we send to you and to me? But I think between the two of us, we can come up with something that we put in the newsletter so that people know what works best for the newsletter and what works best for most of the time I fix them. So if they're too small or too large, I will just fix them to fit. I usually do about 180 DPI because I'm from the old newspaper thing.
Yeah.
But 72 DPI is fine for screens.
Okay.
So maybe you and I can just get together and put together an article addressing that for the newsletter, and then everybody will have a written reference for it.
Yeah, that's a
Well,
good idea.
You don't need any resolution. 2100 pixels on the long side lets you adjust it for both print and video automatically. So,
Okay.
So 2100 is the
it's-
number.
it's 2100
that's-
pixels on the long side is the number. You don't,
Okay.
resolution
Okay.
makes absolutely no difference when sending them.
Okay.
2100
that makes
pixels.
a whole lot.
2100 pixels at 300 DPI is 7 inches. So you
Yeah.
got plenty, and that's a high resolution. So
Yeah.
2100
Well,
should be plenty.
yeah. But
Okay.
for me sending the newsletter, that gets to be really different.
But at
That gets to be heavy, so I
at
fix
least
them.
you've got more to shrink down than too little to blow up.
Yeah.
Well,
That's why we
you're
settled on
right.
2100.
Okay.
The higher,
My
the higher the-
newsletters, I did everything at 2100 pixels because that gave me a 5x7 inch print, which would go on a front page down to any size that you needed because everything will adjust
Okay.
for it.
Sounds great.
All right. But
the higher,
I still think we'll
The
put that
higher-
in.
the higher the resolution, the bigger the file. Size-wise,
Yeah.
depth-wise.
It won't make any difference if it's 2100 pixels. It'll be the same size file at 300 dots per inch or at 72.
Oh, because of the 2100 pixels is the clue.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
That's the whole thing. If you send it at 300, it will work and be the same size as if you send it at 72. At 72, it will
Okay.
just be a bigger size image.
Correct.
It'll be 2100
Okay.
pixels across the whole. It'll fill the whole screen on a monitor. On a newsletter, it will do a 5x7 print.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
All right.
It's
one of the
confusing,
things,
but trust me.
trust is
Okay.
trust is always the right thing to do. All right.
Oh,
I'm gonna share screen now and show the slideshow for the Winter 2002 challenge. So let me do that, and then we'll move into show and tell and tips and hints in the program. Okay, sure. Well, I gotta get out of here. Okay. Jeff, I had music on here, but I took it off. I don't want any conflicts. So here we go.
Okay.
Mm.
All right. Now, as a reminder, next month, the topic is architectural angles. I'd love to see your angle on the topic. So feel free to get those to me whenever you're available, and we'll march on from there. The next item for tonight is show and tell. We have two presenters, Jeff Ewing and Tony Shulist. One of you decide which one you want to go first. I guess I'll call on Jeff.
Or I will.
I'll go ahead. Here we go. Are we seeing my Lightroom?
Yep. Looks
All right.
good.
So I got a collection of images here from from fall and a few through the winter here. So this was up in Vilas County, Nescanaba Lake area. Oops, excuse me. This I took a few years ago at on the top of Parnell Tower. It was in the fall, and we had happened to have a little bit of a snowstorm, so the view up there at that was spectacular. It's an image from that. This is Kolarandri State Park in Sheboygan. This is up in Vilas County, just north of Sainer. This is also just north of Eagle River, around 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Had to slam on the brakes when I saw this pond. Same pond. This was a bunch of old dock posts that I had noticed when I was fishing off a public pier in Vilas County one morning. I just liked the way the colors were around these posts, so I focus stacked, ran back to my truck about a half a mile, came back out and focus stacked the image of these old dock posts. This is Plum Lake in Vilas County. This is a tree that was on the shoreline at the same fishing pier that I was on. Of course, everyone has a long black road in the fall. This is my version, I guess. Just a boat on the shoreline. Image from a lake way back in the middle of nowhere. Drove down a dirt road and hit a couple little spots like this. Same lake. This is images of some tamaracks that I found just off of County Highway I. New nature preserve, or a nature preserve area that I've never seen before. Caught these at actually waited until the sun came up over the hill to hit these tamaracks. Same area. Same area again. I got a couple of ICMs here that I took at in the Kettle Moraine. I got a couple of Port Washington wave pictures here. I call this one the Kiss of the Dragon. You can see the dragon head up at the top. I take a lot of pictures of the lighthouse, and it's very rare that I get light like this and wave action like this. So this was a pretty special day. Same with this one. The lighting was just fantastic. Very rare. It's usually so contrasty and gray, and it's really, really nice to have the light. This one I took on this evening was the official lighting of the lighthouse. They put LED lights at the very top to shine down on the lighthouse, and this was the opening official lighting, you might say, of that lighthouse. We all were kind of standing around waiting for the switch to be thrown, but in fact they are powered by solar panels, so it just gradually lights up. And I took these just a couple of weeks ago, maybe last week. It was very cold. A lot of geese, thousands of them. And very cold morning again, the Port Lighthouse. I kind of waited to get the fog to kind of frame the lighthouse a little bit. And that's it for me.
Super.
I have a question for you, Jeff.
Yes.
When you're doing like the wave action for the lighthouse, and you've got that northerly viewpoint, where exactly at this moment in time with that construction going on are you choosing to park?
Park?
Yeah.
Right by the filtration plant.
In that little parking lot and then walking over?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
A lot of parking there, actually.
Yeah.
Okay.
Jeff, I think we're going to give you a new title in a positive way. You're going to be the fall. You're the fall guy.
The fall guy. I love the fall. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
Trees and fall. Yep.
Beautiful picture. I understand you framed quite a few of these.
I got them hanging on my wall in the background here. You can see that.
Oh, wow. Super.
Yeah. Thank you.
Very nice. All right. Who's next? Tony, where are you? There we go.
Unmute. There we go. All right. Do you see my butterfly?
Oh, you got him.
All right. We'll do that a little bit. Okay. 2 years ago, my wife and I were finding the monarch caterpillars and bringing them in and raising them through their cocoon stage. And then this one in our cage, he just came out of the cocoon and is drying his wings. And when he was flying around inside, then we released them. And I think we did 15 of them that summer. And they thrive on milkweed, and we have to try to get out to the roadsides to find the caterpillars and pick the milkweed for the caterpillars to eat before the road crews come and mow it all.
Mm.
And this is the bay, our view out to the bay on Lake Sherwood in the town of Rome, south of Wisconsin Rapids. And this is the sunrise. Oh, sorry, sunset. looking the other way on the lake. And this is what called the hammerhead cloud or an upside down submarine. I don't know. Oh, this butterfly, let's see. Da-da-da-da. Yeah, that's one we raised. And this is probably my favorite photograph. That is an unretouched photo taken with my iPhones. In the lower right, you see my wife and I were there for an anniversary dinner, and we came out and those clouds were there. And it's a little town of Kellner, about 25 minutes away, and I call it Clouds Over Kellner. And this, I don't remember I took that one, but I liked it. It's fairly sharp. And this one was on a river in Costa Rica. And he was just getting ready to take off. Oh, and this one. When you're in a different country and you have to have all these electrical plugs just to plug in to charge your phone or your camera battery, it can be quite an ordeal. And the battery down here is holding this whole thing up because it weighs so much. And there's my great grandson Jackson a year ago, wondering whether he should trust me and come through the tunnel. And this is a frog in Costa Rica, and he's bigger than a softball. And this was also in Costa Rica. I forget the name of this guy, but he was 3 feet from me when I took the photo. And this is in Mexico at a resort. They have some parrots or whatever you call them that live there, and they're not tethered or anything. They just stay there. And that's all I have.
Well, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All right. Next on the agenda, we have Ian and Ellen that's going to give us some tips and hints on gallery walls. Interesting topic. Looking forward to it.
Ellen, you want to go first?
Sure. I'll start with the expensive process first, okay? And then
pre-made,
Ian, you can
pre-made.
come in with the
Tony, leave,
pre-made. Okay.
sure,
I'm
at the
trying to
top.
figure out how to get out of that.
It should be at the top, I think.
If I exit out, I lose the
No.
webinar.
You're
Oh.
gone.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
I stopped it. I fixed it. It's
Okay.
something I'm doing in the back end here.
Thank you.
Well, this year I was looking for, because I've always seen Ian's gallery wall behind him, and I was impressed by it. And I stumbled across a company called Mixed Tiles, which presents that, which does gallery walls. And what I wanted to do was, I gave a lot of Christmas gifts this year using the Mixed Tiles, and these are pre-made. Now, the first time I tried it was in September, when I sent a bunch of them to my daughter, and I will explain them to you. But basically, it's a tile. 8-inch by 8-inch is their standard. And usually they have sales for pricing. What was the latest one? I think you can get 12 of these tiles for about, I got them for $70. I think they're $80, but watch, because they vary a lot. Usually it's about $5 or $6 a tile. And what I did this year was a series of 6 tiles for a number of different people. And I do have, Jeff will run through the PDFs of the groupings that I put together, but I wanted to show you that I had ordered these sight unseen. The company itself was really easy to deal with, and they came really lickety split. It's basically, you can see it's the quality of the photo is pretty good. They come on a foam core tile, and what they have on the back is a strip that allows you to peel this off, place it on a wall, as long as it's not a fuzzy wall. In other words, not a cubicle. So you can do that. And I thought it would be perfect for my granddaughter who was going off to college, and they have some tight restrictions on putting things on walls, but this just peels off. And if you ever go to their website, they have a number of different ways of showing you how you can hang these, how the spacing and so on. But really what you can do is put them on the wall, lift them off from the bottom if you want to move them around or change them. And I was pretty impressed with the quality of the photograph for the price that I paid. And they came very, very fast. Now, if Jeff would just show the PDFs that I was planning on showing. I just sent how my groupings were. This is the first one that I had done, and this one I ended up doing 18 of them. Now, because they're 8-inch tiles, I went through and I made them fit into the squares. Most of the time, they want you to just upload them from your camera or something, but they will let you know if the resolution isn't good enough or that you would get a blurry photo. So that's there. So this was just the Disney one that I had done so there's 18 in this particular set. Okay, next one. This was a friend of ours who loves to feed donkeys and monkeys when he's in Mexico. So he got 6 tiles. The next one would be my granddaughters. What I did is I replaced the single image in the middle with the appropriate granddaughter, and then the other 5 photos were the same throughout all of them. But it was a nice, because these girls just are always together. I can't believe it. So obviously their heads do come apart, but most of the time this is how they take pictures. And the last one I did, I've got 2 of those, because what I did is did 9 tiles for the wedding. My son and his wife were in the middle row. On the top row were Tony Shulist and his wife, and next to them were their parents. And in the next grouping, which is the bottom row of the wedding, was a picture of my husband and I and our parents. So that was a nice way to put them together. And if you can do the wedding number 2, I think. And I also had some black and white of some great grandsons. So I mixed and matched them to fit the quantity of 6, but so I took some liberties. And I think I ordered them on a Sunday or Saturday, and by Tuesday, the whole kit and caboodle was there. Now, the images that I chose for these do not have a border on them. But if you go to the website, you can see that they do have some where you can put a faux flat border on the picture itself. So $5 to $6, and they've always got a sale going on. So that was one way that I could personalize Christmas gifts this year.
Nice.
Thanks.
Very nice. So Ian,
And it's started with Ian.
Yeah, so for years I've been like, let me back up. I have a thing with glass frames that they irritate me because they tend to be reflective because I don't have nice lights shining on them just right and everything like that. And I hate seeing the reflections. Plus they're heavy and they break if you drop them, stuff like that. And they add up in cost. So for years I've been like kind of just devising my own ways of making my own frames because I wanted a relatively inexpensive solution because I knew I wanted a lot of them. And I wanted something that was light and didn't have glass that I could just hang on my walls with 3M command hooks. So I didn't have to worry about putting a whole bunch of nail holes in my walls, especially knowing that I was going to put up, see how many do I have in front of me? 15 right now, and I'll probably eventually add more to it, plus more throughout my house. So I was going to share my solution, which is pretty easy to make.
I'm having a hard time hearing you, Ian.
Is that any better?
Yeah.
Okay. Sometimes my microphone doesn't want to work right unless I fix that. So let me know if it acts up again. So anyways, I wanted something cheap that was fairly easy to put together, that had no glass, that was light. And what I came up with is this, which is no more than a piece of foam core, 11 by 14 foam core. 2 of these, which I know you probably have no idea what these are when you look at them on the Zoom call, but these are called C-line slide and grip binding bars. And you use these when you want to make like a documentation, a presentation thing. So you have like 2 pieces of plastic in your paper and you slide in there, and this is the binder that holds it all together. It just squeezes it. It's like a triangle. I know it's not going to show up in the Zoom. But anyways, 2 of those are pinching the print. So the print just lays on top. These slide on. Again, I know the focus is tough, but they just slide right on. Hold it on there. And then I took these picture hangers that are the kind that just like press in. You got to be a little careful with them because they're made for, this foam core is only 1/8 of an inch thick, and these binders or these push things are actually made for 1/4 foam core. So if you just push them straight through, they'll go straight through. So I just bent the little pointy pieces just a little bit and then just squeeze them right in there. There's no tape, nothing, piece of wire, and I just hang it up on a 3M command hook. I'm going to share my screen real quick. This should be seeing picture and homemade frames document. Yes.
Yep.
Okay. Never know. Too many Myers, as you can see. So I took this photo literally during, I think, Jeff's present, while Jeff was showing us his frames in the background. It made me think, oh, I should take a picture to show you guys like what I have. So this is my desk right now. I have lots of Myers, lights, all that stuff. But behind it are my 15 pictures that I actually had put up here way before I had 3 monitors and lights and all this stuff before I was working at home. So it was way easier to see them. I'll probably end up putting more up higher so it's easier to see. But I wanted to do something like this with a whole bunch of my photos, and I didn't want to spend a ton of money doing it. I didn't want heavy frames and all stuff, like I said. So I put together like a really quick thing here. Jeff, I thought I'd just send this to you, and then you could maybe, or Ellen, I don't know, whoever I should send it to. Might just want to distribute it to everybody if they just want links straight to find the stuff, because I got the binding bars off Staples, map board off Amazon, picture wire, I mean, you can get anywhere. Push hangers are actually harder to find than I thought they would be. Menards lists some right now. So, but again, wherever you can find them. And then I kind of just broke down like what the costs approximately cost when you divvy it all up and everything. And I came out with about $2.41 a frame plus the print. And I like the 3M Command mini hooks, and it's about $8 a piece. So it's not, and again, that includes the print itself, which is the bulk of the cost.
So the pricing isn't that much difference, but I would like a copy of this, and I can either put it in the newsletter or send it out as an attachment with the newsletter
Sure.
and next time. So, because you
Mine
can
are just
literally.
bigger. That's the difference. Mine are, these are 11 by 14.
Correct. And the ones that I have, they do have some larger sizes, but the ones that you're basically working with are 8 by 8 inch. And even though you use the command hook, I want to do as little work as possible. So, I mean, those are two different ways. Those are two different ways of doing it. Plus you kind of have to commit. You can do yours one at a time, which is a little bit easier, but I have to make I had to make a commitment. It's like, okay, 6, 12, whatever. So
that's a good point. So I guess 3 minor things real quick. One, I want something that I could swap photos out quickly, because I'm constantly changing out my photos. I get like probably every minimum every 6 months, I swap out a lot of my photos for new photos. So I want something that could easily do that. I will say the one drawback of them is this isn't a great way to hang prints, in the sense that, like, you know how you're supposed to like tape them like a T and stuff, and the glass gives it room to breathe and stuff. Over time, the moisture does tend to, this one's actually in great shape, but some of them will bow a little bit on the edge. You can loosen this and then it'll flan back out, which is nice. So it's not a terrible thing, but they aren't protected or anything, but the other point that I'll make is the 11 by 14 works really well because these are 11 inches long. So they fit perfect. If I do vertical, I just have them on top. If I do horizontal, I have them on sides. I do also do 16 by 20 sometimes. And I just put 2 of these along the 20-inch side and I clipped 2 inches off. So I just use a pair of scissors and chopped it off because it's just plastic.
but
You can do other sizes.
But nonetheless, these are both cheaper alternatives than the whole frame hanging on the wall, and the amount invested in framing is, last time I did it, I mean, it gets astronomical. So
Yours are probably pretty light too, aren't they?
they're very light because it's thick. It's just a very thicker foam core with the tape on the back. So yeah.
I used
Easily.
to do, Urban Ecology Center had an area that we could do like a display, and we would rotate, and I would bring like 12 photos or something, and I used to bring big frames of glass and everything. They're so heavy and rolled in and everything. And then towards the end, pre-pandemic, I'd bring 12 of these just on top of each other because it didn't weigh anything. It was fantastic. And I'd have my frames up in like 5 minutes.
Ellen, are those your pictures? Can you buy additional tape to put on the back of those when it wears out?
No, that's the problem. I don't know how long it takes to wear out. They're reusable and repositionable. So that if you lift them from the bottom, you can reposition them. And I have seen videos where someone has done that, moved a bottom row to a top row. And again, I don't know how long people want to keep some of these things on the wall. I think they're meant to be, not forever.
Sure.
That sort of thing, so that you can move them around, or for a dorm room or something like that. So
Perfect. All right. Thank you very much. Anybody have any questions of our speakers? All right. Well, let's introduce Marty Welter. He's going to do a program tonight on rodeo photography. Marty, I don't know you that well. I know Jeff does. You want to introduce yourself, and we'll let you take it away.
Hi, I'm Marty.
Well, have at it.
That's what I was going to say, but here's Marty. So
Here's Marty. Oh, too funny. The games we don't play. So, yeah, so I am Marty Welter. I am a member of the Pro Rodeo Cowboy Association, and have been since 1992. I am I'm a gold card member now. I've stopped buying my participant card, and I do go to some rodeos yet, but not to the caliber or the quantity, I should say, that I had been doing the last 30 years. But it's been an eventful little tour for me on the road, and I won't spend a whole lot of time, I guess, right now introducing myself, because that's part of my show. So, as they say, on with the show. So I guess I have to update the slide, because it's actually been about 30 years now that I've been doing this, and this is me hard at work in the arena. Obviously, what you see in my hand is my camera equipment, but what you see in my right hand is what's called a flank strap, and that's what goes around the bucking horses when they're coming out of the chute and doing their little thing during the ride. And you'll see more of that, but as I'd be running from one end of the arena to the other, just to kind of help clean things up, I grab these on my way through and bring them back to the guys at the other end, so they didn't have to run halfway down the arena just to pick that up. So rodeo is kind of a family sport in a lot of ways, both from a viewer standpoint, where it's very family friendly, as well as just all of us working rodeo. We're all one big family. So myself, I've been involved with photography for actually close to 45 years now. I started pretty young. Started doing rodeos in 1992, and in 1996 I earned my membership in the Pro Rodeo Cowboy Association, which took me 3 years and 3 tries, submitting portfolios. You got to get letters of recommendation from other rodeo photographers. It's kind of a challenging thing to get. They don't let, this is going to sound horrible, they don't let just anybody go shoot a rodeo, but they want to make sure that you are capable of presenting rodeo in the best manner possible, the best light, so to speak. So for the most part, throughout my career, I've spent in the Midwest here in the Great Lakes circuit. You can kind of see the states listed there. So that's kind of how I got started in all this. Actually, the way I got started in this, I met a rodeo bullfighter in a bar in Green Bay, and he says, "Hey, you want to go to a rodeo with me?" I said, "Sure, why not?" And I did, and well, the rest is, as they say, history. So rodeo is quite a patriotic sport, and the first part of my program is going to kind of deal with that. So I'll kind of introduce the players, so to speak, of who all is involved in rodeo and what they're kind of doing. So rodeo is made up of a whole lot of people. You have your rodeo committee, the rodeo contestants, of course, a rodeo announcer who plays a pivotal role in the rodeo as it progresses throughout the evening. Rodeo queens, you can't have a rodeo without pretty ladies running around. Rodeo judges, who are the ones that are kind of making sure everything is running by the rules, and they're scoring the cowboys and cowgirls as they need to. Beyond that, there's the contract personnel, the people that are the clowns, bullfighters, pickup men, arena help, the rodeo secretaries, timers, and of course the rodeo photographer. And all these people are needed to really make a successful rodeo. There's 7, actually 8 main events now in rodeo. They've added one more. So and we'll have pictures of all these, but bareback riding, team roping, saddle bronc riding, steer wrestling, tie down roping, and what they added now is an event called breakaway roping, where it allows women to compete actually in 2 events now in pro rodeos rather than just one. So barrel racing for the women, as well as the breakaway roping, and then bull riding, everybody's favorite. So pageantry and patriotism. I'm going to spend a bit of time on this because this is as much a part of what a rodeo is as the actual action itself. And as a photographer, it's probably been some of my favorite part of the genre to shoot is the behind the scenes stuff, or the entertainment action rather than just the rodeo action. So this is Roger. He's a rodeo announcer, and this horse is about to buck his butt right off that horse. And so the rodeo announcers, they're the ones there kind of calling play-by-play to the crowd as the rodeo goes on. So they're talking about the cowboys, they're talking about the stock, they're interacting with the clowns as the evening progresses. So they've got a busy time, and they can make or break a rodeo. This is a contract act, so they bring this thing out. That horse actually raises up in that bell and comes out of the top of it. Again, pageantry and patriotism plays a huge part in the sport. As you can see, very military friendly. They're always appreciative of military personnel and always recognize them during the rodeo. This is all, to me, kind of just some of the fun stuff to shoot beyond the action. This is up in Menomonee, Wisconsin. This is the rodeo riders that they have. They actually travel throughout the Midwest, perform at different rodeos. You know, fun stuff like this. You go from a lit house to a dark house, and then you have to change your camera to make sure you're not blowing everything out and do it in a split second. So this is where really knowing your camera equipment really comes into play. More rodeo queens and more rodeo queens. So we put the queens to work during the rodeo. They're chasing cattle out after steer wrestling and calf roping. It's their job to kind of gather up those cattle and push them out so that the rodeo can continue. Mentioned it's a family sport. This is the son of one of the saddle bronc riders from our circuit here. And of course, the little kids, they like following in their father's footsteps. So you can see this is just kind of a cute little picture during grand entry. It's just hard not to take pictures of that kind of stuff. These guys here are living legends. They were at the first National Finals Rodeo in 1959, and this was shot about 4 years ago, and they're still active in the sport in one form or another. It's just a pretty cool. It was a pretty special picture to be able to get. Talk a little bit about the rodeo judges. And again, they play a pivotal role in the sport. Here they're setting up the timers for the barrel racing, making sure that everything is going to be fair and accurate for all the contestants. This gentleman is checking to make sure that a calf was tied correctly and didn't break any rules. So again, they just play a big part in rodeo. Entertainment at a rodeo is a make or break thing for a small town rodeo. If they can bring in some big entertainment and really keep the crowds entertained, then they're doing a good job for that community. You know, it's a little soft, but again, you went from a lit house to a dark house in about 30 seconds, and I had to change camera settings real quick. This is indoors, these last couple pictures. I am not afraid to push my ISOs a little bit to high speeds. I mean, I pretty regularly shoot up at 8,000 plus ISO when it comes into that's 8,000 ISO there, guys, believe it or not, with no noise reduction put on it. That's not right out of the camera, but I've edited these a little bit, but no noise reduction, and that's how good some of these cameras have gotten today. So I photographed a big rodeos, small rodeos. This is up in Duluth Superior. It's just a nice little amateur rodeo that draws in big crowds every Labor Day. It's just a fun event to go to. So this is a third generation trick roper, and he's traveled the country far and wide. This silly guy jumps off of fences backwards. His name is Backflip Johnny, just to keep the crowds entertained. He needed this picture with those guns going off. Everybody else failed him. I got it on my first try. Don't ask me how. Keith is just taking a break during the busy time. Well, actually, he's entertaining the crowds here, believe it or not. And these guys are friends, so they're just, I'm not sure what they're taking in here, but they're enjoying something. So bullfighters and pickup band, there is a difference between the bullfighters and the clowns, and that last picture showed one of each. The gentleman in the barrel was a rodeo clown. He's there to entertain the crowd, where the bullfighter is there to protect the cowboys. And you know, with the horns on these things and everything, I don't know how many people are going to want to be doing that, but they get paid for it. Not near enough, but they do it. So again, their job is to the cowboy falls off, to get them out of harm's way, and they do that by distracting the bull, getting the bull to chase after them rather than the cowboy. Give the cowboy a chance to run for cover, so to speak. And it's a teamwork thing sometimes. You wonder, what's the cowboy thinking right there? You're going, oh boy, I got to get out of here. And probably not in such kind words. You know, you can see the bullfighter is right between the cowboy and the bull. He's going to do his best not to let that cowboy get hurt by the bull. So the pickup men, they're there to do a lot of things during the rodeo, one of which is to kind of rescue the horse riders, the bareback and saddle bronc riders. So here you can see that the cowboy's ride is done. He's jumping on the back of the pickup man's horse to get off of the bucking horse and get down to the ground safely. Them guys work really well together. The two or three men that are doing pickup. Here you can see the pickup man in the back saying thanks, and this guy is grabbing the bronc rein to lead that horse out of the arena. And it works like clockwork for these guys. They are true athletes and true professionals in what they do. So these are pictures that, you know, when you think rodeo, this is probably not the first thing you think of, but I think they make fantastic rodeo pictures. So we're going to get into the events now. Bareback riding is usually the first event out during a rodeo, and it's not an old man sport. You got to be a young guy for this. These horses buck pretty hard. You can kind of see right behind the horse's head, there's a little ring or a halter thing there, and basically it's like a suitcase handle that gets wrapped around the horse, tied in. And that's what the guys have to hang on to throughout the ride. The cowboy cannot touch the horse with his free arm. If he does, he gets disqualified. He needs to be spurring his feet front to back throughout the whole ride. If he can, have his toes out. All these are things that the judges are watching, and that's how their scores are accumulated. Half the score of 100 goes to the cowboy and half goes to the horse. So they hope they draw a good horse that's going to perform for them, but then they have to do their job as well. So you can see he's kind of leaned way back, and you can see his hand really well there in that little rigging. This is kind of a pretty typical bareback horse when everything is going correctly. Horses are kicked out a little bit usually. This is a pretty rough and wild ride. He's probably not going to hang on too much longer there, but it's still a fun picture. You see his feet, his toes turned way out, the spur up on the horse's shoulder. That's exactly where they want to be at that point in the ride. For 8 seconds, they're doing that back and forth. This is a pretty dangerous time for the cowboys in the bucking chutes. They get mashed to the back of the horse. They can get hurt pretty bad. So, Joe, you want me to hold questions to the end, or if anybody has questions, you want me to take them during it, or? Joe or Jeff?
I'm sorry.
Do you want me to take questions now, or do you,
Um,
throughout, or do you want me to wait till the end for questions?
let's wait till the end.
Okay. So steer wrestling, the big man's event, just picture linebackers in football, only these guys jump off a perfectly good horse at about 30 miles an hour. They do get a helper, and that helper is there to help the steer run straight down the arena, so that the cowboy does kind of get a fighting chance to jump on the horse, grab its horns, drag him to the ground, and spin it so all 4 feet are pointing away from him. All that can happen in about 3.5 to 4 seconds. Most of us can't even think about tying our shoes in that kind of time, but these guys move fast, and it can get down and dirty. It can be fun. And, that's the kind of picture guys like, and then send it to a photo contest. This poor guy missed the steer. So what happened is the steer actually stopped right before the guy jumped off his horse, and he ended up head first. This is really what you want to see in a steer wrestling picture, for the proper action and the proper stance. And you can see throughout these pictures, that's kind of what you're getting, and that's what the Cowboys and the association are looking for when they purchase pictures. Is they want that action to be kind of in a correct manner, and just so. I will say that steer wrestling is probably my most dangerous time in the arena, just because of where I have to stand to get those pictures, and the way that the horses are kind of trained. I'm at the far end of the arena. The steer wrestling horses are trained to run to the end of the arena and not stop till they get there. Well, they're usually coming full bore at me, and I've had probably more close calls during that event than anything else I've done in rodeo. So the classic event, this is steer wrestling. So a little different than the bareback riding you saw earlier. You can see in the cowboy's left hand, he has what's called a bronc rein. So what he's doing is he's keeping a lift on that horse, and that's really the only thing keeping him on that horse is just that pressure and that balance that he has. They use what's called an association saddle. That saddle does not have a horn on it, and for obvious reasons, guys, you can probably all appreciate that. So guys, they jump on the horse in the chute, they measure out their bronc rein. By what I mean by that is they know these animals, and they know, does this horse drop his head a lot, or does he hold his head high? And they try to arrange on that bronc rein in their hand to give them the best balance for that. And it's something that is just learned over the years, and the guys discuss the animals. They all know throughout the year the different horses going throughout the country, and they all kind of learn how to best handle that animal. So again, first jump out, the cowboy's feet must be in the shoulders of the horse for the first jump. So when the horse's feet hit the ground on the first jump out, the cowboy's feet need to be up in the shoulders. If they're not, that's called missing the horse out, and they get disqualified. Again, they're going to spur them for 8 seconds, and free hand cannot touch the horse. So you can see that horse just really kind of blowing up out of there, pulling his head back. So it's a pretty tough first couple jumps to really keep in touch with that horse. Here he's rearing up a little bit farther, which makes it hard. This is kind of what you'll like to see going down the arena. He looks like he's just sitting there for a Sunday ride, but he's really working hard to keep down in there. Again, the feet kind of turned out a little bit, and that free arm back, and just that balance point where he's got that rein. And apparently where he doesn't have that rein, because he ended up down in the dirt. So I've seen some pretty amazing wrecks throughout the years of doing this, and I've seen some pretty amazing rides. And I've gotten to know a lot of great guys. It's just been a fun sport. When I get done with this set of pictures, I do have a really brief section or series of wreck pictures to show you that was all one ride, and it was a pretty amazing thing to see. But you can see, I mean, these are big, strong animals. They blast out of these chutes. You're talking 1,500 to 1,800 pounds of horsepower, so to speak, and it's not like a pony ride by any means. So that's a good shot where you can see that flank strap there. So the question you get a lot is, does that flank strap hurt the animals at all? So rodeo animals are very expensive animals. They're very well taken care of. Statistically, in the course of a year, 0.1% of rodeo animals may be injured. So it's a very low percentage. The contractors have a lot of money invested in these animals, and they're not going to hurt them at all. So what that flank strap basically is doing is, it's I'm going to call it an irritant for lack of a better term. And so part of the bucking is the horses are at the rodeo because they already buck. That's what they do. The flank strap just kind of makes them buck a little bit harder, so to speak. But I've seen horses without flank straps buck pretty darn hard and not have to worry about it. So calf roping and rodeo in general was born out of kind of the necessity for work on the range. So it was time to vaccinate the animals, and one way they do that is they rope a calf and they get them wrestled down and tied down, and then they can out in the field apply their vaccines to them. So competition is competition, and one guy says, "Hey, I can do that better than you," and next thing you know, we have rodeo. So good fast horses. Some of these kind event horses you're seeing, the calf roping, the steer wrestling horses, they could be 10,000 and up. I've seen barrel horses go for over $100,000. So they're pretty expensive animals, and they know how to do their job. So again, the calf roping, that can happen pretty darn fast. Anywhere from say 7 to 12 seconds on average to leave the gate, throw your rope around the horse's head, lift the calf up, flank them, throw them back down to the ground, tie up 3 feet, throw your hands up in the air, and to do all that in about average of 12 seconds is you're moving. So here you can see he's just ready to dismount the horse. He's got the calf caught really nicely. And you can see again the consistency of where I'm taking that picture, because that is what was required of me to do. That's what the Cowboys wanted. That's what the PRCA wants for their publications. So it just kind of showcases that particular event in the way that they want to see it. Kind of fun playing in the mud here, isn't it? And it's a catch as catch can. So that calf cut way right, but the Cowboys still work with them. The horse worked with them. This is the breakaway roping I was referring to earlier. So they don't have to dismount the horse. They do have to catch those calves real fast, and they can be done in 2.5, 3 seconds. So we're going to move into team roping, and this is the only event in the sport that actually is just that, a team. I mentioned earlier that the steer wrestling, they're allowed a helper, a hazer. But in team roping, you have one man to catch the head and one guy to catch the heels, and the whole deal depends on both of the guys doing their job and kind of the steer cooperating with them. So, again, expensive horses, lots and lots of practice, and away they go. So here you can see real nice heel loop. He's got both of those heels caught, and as he backs up, the rope will be taut, and the guys will have a clean score then. There you can see it again. So, again, this is all stuff that over the years I've really kind of perfected my timing to get this correctly. It's I don't shoot motor drive in anything I do in rodeo. It's all click, 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 and I do that in part because I learned the sport shooting film. I didn't have that luxury. This guy kind of lost his seat, and his partner's going, "What are you doing down there?" In fact, I shot in the pouring rain one time. I couldn't see out of my camera. I had a blue plastic bag covering it, but I knew when the guys were supposed to throw their ropes, and I was amazed that my pictures came out timing wise exactly when they should have been, and that was both in calf roping and in the team roping. I was pretty happy with that. So barrel racing is one of two events now that the women can compete in pro rodeo, and it's a fast-paced event. They've got to basically make a figure eight run around 3 barrels. They can either start to the right or to the left. It's their choice. And don't tip a barrel and make it to the finish line. And the fastest person, of course, wins. And again, this could be done depending on the size of the arena, anywhere from 12 or 13 seconds up to big arenas where you're more like 16 to 18 seconds. But it's fast, fast, fast. So this is up in Merrill, Wisconsin. I always get great sunset pictures there. It just happens to be the time of day and the time of year, and it just always works out that way. So this is a gal that decided to go to the right barrel second, and so you get a little different angle. Of course, kids and rodeo again is a fun part. So this is actually a barrel racing event rather than a rodeo, but this poor gal here is kind of on the wrong side of that barrel. She's not where she belongs, but I wanted to show pictures like that just to say that every picture I get isn't award winning, but you capture some pretty cool action even when they don't think it is. So everybody's favorite sport or part of the sport, bow riding. That is a whole lot of hamburger there, isn't it, guys? I mean, you're talking, 2,400 pounds of Bramer bull, and he's just standing there pretty, just posing for me. So these guys, they take a mouthful of marbles, they spit them out, and that's like spitting their brains out. No, so they have a bow rope that has a bell on it, and they take that bow rope and they loop it around the bowl, they pull it up and wrap that loose end of the bow rope around their hand, and that's all they have holding on to these bowls. And chute opens, they nod their head, and away they go. You can see his hand there wrapped in there real tight, nice and tight. The trick is to keep yourself centered on the bowl, because as soon as you come off the center, you're down on the ground. So I don't stop shooting because it's raining. You get some pretty dramatic pictures that way. I'm not shooting with flash, I'm shooting with just available light in the rain, but it can be done. And we're not doing fine art here, so if it has a little noise or a little grain to it, it isn't the end of the world. Think about back in the old film days and the way we used to push film and the type of grain we had in that. So it's, to me, perfectly acceptable to have a little bit of noise, a little bit of grain in the pictures. I guess the other alternative is, well, it's too dark and just stop shooting. So you can see I'm using a flash here. Doesn't bother the animals at all. They don't really see. There's so much going on at the rodeo. These animals don't even see that. So he's about to end up on the ground. You can see he's way, way off of the center, of course, and just not a place you want to be. And if they're lucky, the bull won't step on them or kick them. Get up, get up, get out. Doesn't he just look like he's in pain? So you got to start them young to get them going on the big bulls. So some of the rodeos do have a kind of a kid section to let them come and try it out. Isn't that just the cutest pair? So Tim here, he's a calf roper, and he trains all his horses to do this. So he's usually the last calf roper out at most rodeos he goes to, just so he can bow to the crowds. So as I mentioned, I do have one more, if I can get to it here. Are we still seeing my screen?
Seeing you.
No, it
Seeing
kicked
me,
out.
okay. All right. I gotta go out and I gotta go back in here again. So this is a bareback ride that happened in Merrill, Wisconsin, and it was probably one of the coolest things I've ever seen in rodeo. And in fact, the PRCA liked it so much that they ran 6 of these pictures in a double wide spot in the Pro Rodeo Sport News, the trade publication. It's the first time they ever ran a 2-page spread like that, and they've done it ever since. So I have the dubious honor of being the first one they ever did that. But this is just a really, really cool thing. So the ride started out just like any old ride should, and he's just going along, and then the horse falls. And he rolls over the cowboy. Imagine 2,000 pounds of, look at his foot there. He's just pinned underneath his horse. So now the horse is right. Time to get back up. And the cowboy, remember, his hand is stuck in this little rigging thing. So he can't get his hand. It's stuck in there. He just can't just let loose. If you saw the first picture and you saw that picture, you would not have known that the roll happened in between there. But now the problem is he's got to get off this horse because the horse fell, he gets a rewrite. He gets to do it all over again. So but now his hand is stuck in this rigging, so the poor guy can't get out of this mess yet. You can see jerking on his hand. He's just trying to do everything to break the bind between his leather glove and the little handle he's holding on to. Again, it's a young man's sport. So now he's hanging off the side. What am I going to do here? And finally, he gets broke loose, and that horse darn near kicked him right in the butt on the way out. But thank God for you, huh? So the very next week, next week, he was at another rodeo, and I don't have the pictures on here, but that same cowboy got bucked off a horse. He ended up right underneath the horse, and he's like this because the horse is literally directly over him. Like he could have landed right on top of him. He didn't stay on the circuit very long. I think only 2 or 3 years. He tried, but he just didn't quite get too far with it. So
probably a smart man.
Yeah, maybe. So
I have a couple of questions here. Are you shooting in RAW or JPEG?
Never shoot RAW.
Oh, is that right?
Never, not anything I do. All right, so I'll partly explain that. So at least for the rodeo portion of it. So I shoot JPEG, I shoot Canon cameras. For the last, I don't know how many years now, I've been shooting a 5D Mark III and a 7D Mark II. And I mix and match a combination of camera bodies and camera lenses to which rodeo arena I'm at, because the arenas are varying sizes. They're not all consistent. So I kind of pick the combination of what works best for that arena. So my rodeo workflow, and one of the reasons that I don't shoot RAW, first of all, I've just never found that I can't do everything I need to do with JPEG image. So that's part of it. The other part of it is just a plain workflow for me. So when I get done shooting a rodeo, and at the end of the night, and I've probably shot 300 plus pictures during that night. And again, I don't shoot motor drive, so it's click, click, click. I go back to my camper after the rodeo. I download the pictures. I tag each file with the contestant's name so that they're searchable. I resize the images, load them up to my sales site, and let me go back here. And by doing all that, that is done in a matter of about 45 minutes. And so if I shot RAW, there's no way that I could ever do that. Just the workflow, the time frame would just be too long to have to work through 300 RAW images, color correct them, and all that. So the images, I'm not doing any correction to the images right out of my camera. So they're all going right up onto my sales site here. And again, an hour, basically an hour after the rodeo, the cowboys can go and start buying pictures from me if they want. And they know that. And a lot of times they do. They're Johnny on the spot waiting for, they know they're all excited. They just had a great ride. They want to see that picture. So they get on the site and they can search by their name, bring their picture up, and away they go. So, and then, they find themselves and say, yeah, I like that picture. I want to buy that picture. They add it to their cart and away they go. Again, if I was shooting raw files, there's no way this workflow would ever work that fast. I'd be, 2 or 3 days later. Well, I want point of sale. I want them to still be excited when they see these pictures and want to buy that picture. The longer I wait, the less they care. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Do you also do your own printing for the sales?
Nope. Everything goes to a lab. I've been using Bay Photo now for quite a few years. So what happens is I receive an order from the contestant. I will then color correct, crop it to size, send it to the lab. The lab ships it right to the contestant. So
Okay.
I never have to mess with it again. So it's a pretty good little workflow that I've developed over the years for it. Back in the film days was a different story, but then there was about a week delay in things. Processed all the film, printed it. I made labels for every back of every picture. The guys that see me at the next rodeo and they come and they look through binders of pictures. And they say, hey, I want this one. And they either buy that 4x6 or they'd order an enlargement or whatever. And then, if they're ordering an enlargement, of course, then I have to go back and send that negative to the lab, get a print made, get the negative back, get the print mailed out. This digital stuff, in that respect, has been a great thing for my business.
All right. Do any of the members here have a question?
Yeah, Marty, about what shutter speed are you using to catch that action?
Yeah. So, as you can see, the lighting I work with changes greatly throughout the course of the evening. So I might start out at 7:30, 7 o'clock, 7:30 on a summer evening, and I got really nice, soft, golden light. And by the time I get to, saddle bronc riding or calf roping, the light is changing from the beginning till then. So I'm always adjusting my aperture and my shutter speeds. I try to stay above 400 or 500 for shutter speed. And as I mentioned, I don't really mind pushing ISOs. I've shot stuff at 12,800 and you'd never know it by looking at the pictures. And then of course I'm using flash a lot of times too. So the shutter speeds and the ISOs are constantly changing throughout the course of the evening.
All right. Anybody else?
Marty, at the rodeo, you mentioned the events that are there. Where would you go if you wanted to see a cutting horse event?
Well, I guess I would start by going to the National Cutting Horse Association website and finding out where events in your area are. So for those of you who are not aware of what cutting is, there's a whole bunch of other disciplines for equine events beyond rodeo. Of course, there's cutting and penning and sorting and show jumping, horse shows where it's an English style horse show or a Western style horse show. There's barrel races, cowboy mounted shooting. So there's associations for almost all of this stuff. So my best advice is just do a web search for the given association, see what they have in your area. Wisconsin, we used to have a lot of cutting and penning events here in the state. That's really drifted off quite a bit. I can tell you one place you could go if you can find a high school rodeo event, the Wisconsin High School Rodeo Association. They do cutting events every rodeo they have. So that might be, kind of a local thing that you can find to do it. And for those of you who have never seen the cutting, it's one of the coolest things you can do on the back of a horse. I had the opportunity one time to just sit on what's called a turnback horse during a cutting event. This horse was an old campaigner, was 20 some odd years old. And the person doing the cutting is out doing his job, and this horse is still watching, and I can just feel him ready to just jump in when he's all ready to go. But it was just the smoothest, most fun time I think I've ever had on the back of a horse.
Yeah, I didn't realize there are different associations for all those other kinds of things.
Oh my gosh, yeah, there's so many different associations out there. Again, over the years of doing this, I belonged to a lot of them at one time or another. I've shot almost every genre of equine there is to shoot. It's just been a fun ride, you know.
Do you get to travel out west for any of the big events?
You know, I certainly could have, but so the PRCA has, I don't know, maybe 60, 70 photographers that are member photographers.
Uh-huh.
And in the Midwest, there's only a couple of us doing it, and for the PRCA. So I thought, why do I want to go out there and compete against everybody else shooting where, I've got all these local rodeos and very, very good rodeos. Let me tell you, Wisconsin and the Midwest in general, we've got some great rodeos here. We've got some great cowboys. We've got world champion cowboys from right here in the Midwest. Wisconsin has put out a couple of world champion bull riders throughout the years. One of the best bareback riders going is from Iowa, and I shot him back when he was in high school rodeo, and now I watch him at the national finals. I mean, it's just a pretty cool thing to see that he's come that far from high school rodeo to world champion, 3 or 4 times now. So you don't have to travel out west to see great rodeos. We have them right here in our backyard.
All right.
Marty,
I'm just going to put a plug in here that we actually have in our camera club a person who competitively barrel raced. So Jesse, raise your hand and confess.
Wait, I'm not seeing everybody. I got to get back to the room, Jesse.
Here.
And when were you barrel? Were you NBHA or IBRA? What were you doing?
No, just the open horse shows.
Just the open horse shows. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And did you ever see me at one of your little open horse shows?
I don't believe so. This was back in the 70s.
Nope. I wasn't quite doing it back then. So, but isn't it a fun sport? I mean, barrel racing is just.
I love it. And just when I go to the rodeos and I see the events, I can feel the horses underneath me yet.
Yeah, that's what I was saying about the cutting horse. I mean, you could just, you don't have to necessarily even be on them. You can just feel the action happening when you've done this as long as I have. Yeah.
The power on them.
Yeah.
Marty, I have 2 questions for you. One question I have is I noticed that your depth of field in most of your photos is fairly wide. Is that by design?
Partly yes, because autofocus is pretty darn good, Jim, but by having that little added depth of field in there, it just helps me have sharper pictures overall. Of course, when it gets dark out, I'm shooting at 2.8 or 4.5, depending on which lens I'm using, shooting, just to collect as much light as I can. But certainly during the daytime action, I'll turn that down some and have a little bit more depth of field. And part of it, I like to see the stuff going on in the shoots. I mean, granted, my pictures of the riders aren't maybe as isolated, but because I know all these guys that are on the back of the shoots and they're rooting for their buddies, and there's so much going on back there. If I cropped out some pictures and just had that portion of the picture, it's the sport all over again. And so now what happens, so as I mentioned, I'm cataloged. So again, I started doing this in 1992, and I can go back to the first rodeo I ever shot professionally and pull out images for a cowboy because I've got their name associated with an image number. And so I just received the other day another order to do this. So Saddle Bronc rider who rode back primarily in the 90s, his son wants me to go through and find all the pictures of him. He passed away apparently. And so I can go back and do this. And as I go back and I pull these negatives out and I'm scanning and I'm looking in the back, I'm like, oh, I remember so-and-so, or I remember that happening at that rodeo. And it's kind of fun. And because I have that depth of field, I can see that.
Then the second question would be, I noticed you did mention a little bit about flash. Every now and then I would see a little bit of the eyes light up in the animals and whatever. What would you carry for a flash? I mean, do you set these up on the outside of the ring area there and outside of the fencing? And then do you use them? And are these pretty powerful lights? What do you bring in?
Yeah, so that's a really great question. So I've done it a number of ways over the years. But what I found for myself to be most effective is just using a speed light on my camera, or actually on a bracket, because I can get the speed light up higher, of course. But I've tried setting up alien bees and 4 of them around the arena to try and give me better light, more light. One of the challenges to that in this area is, at an outdoor arena, you never know what the heck the weather is going to do. So I don't want to have to be rushing around and it starts raining or something and try and cover these lights or something. And I just found it to be too much of a hassle. So I'll shoot with a speed light. I get great results with it, and it just works for me. Now, in the indoor arena is a little different. I've used the mono lights in indoor arenas, like at big barrel races and stuff. I'll set them up and just shoot all weekend long with them and not have to worry about it. But because most of what I do is outdoor rodeos, it's just more of a challenge.
All right, thanks.
Yeah, great questions. Next.
I just wanted to say that I'm really interested in going to rodeos now to see all that action that your images have shown. They're great pictures and great story and information about the rodeos. Thank you.
Yeah, well, thanks, Tony. So again, as I mentioned, right in Wisconsin, actually not too far from you, Juneau County Fair has a rodeo every year in August, about third weekend in August, whenever it is during the fair there. That would be a good one for you to go check out. Menomonee, Wisconsin, Merrill, Medford, Boston, as I mentioned, Monroe, let's see, Waukesha gets, or Waukesha, no, not Waukesha, Elkhorn gets a little amateur rodeo every year. Duluth Superior, Green Bay, or De Pere, I should say, Spooner, let's see, what else am I missing? Ladysmith has one now. There's a lot of rodeos, and most people don't realize we have that many rodeos right in the state. So if you go to prorodeo.com, that's where you can find a listing of all the pro rodeos that happen in Wisconsin and in the Midwest and the country, for all that matters. So if you're traveling and you think, hey, I wonder if there's a rodeo in this area when I'm out there, that's where you would go look. So prorodeo.com.
Marty, when we're thinking about going to a rodeo, how good is the access for photos for us? Obviously, we wouldn't have any credentials. We wouldn't be able to do what you did. Is the access still usually fairly good or not so good?
Yeah. It's another one of those, well, it depends, Jim. So every rodeo kind of treats it a little differently. So it's really up to a given rodeo committee to decide what kind of access they want to allow and how much and where and all that. The PRCA itself does have some guidelines for rodeos to do this with, but obviously safety is the first concern. And so in some rodeo arenas are just set up better to allow access than others. But that said, with some of the lenses we have today, shooting from the stands, you can get some great shots. Were you at Menomonee one year with us? I can't remember.
No, I was not.
Okay. So I've done a couple of little mini workshops up in Menomonee, and I'm thinking about putting another one together. I haven't quite got that far into my planning stages to say anything about it, but and so what I've done with those is I've gotten kind of a group ticket rate from the rodeo committees, and we've shot from the stands, and then a lot of rodeos have what's called a slack session. And what that is during the course of a given rodeo, they're only allowed to put X amount of contestants in each performance. And they do that for a time factor, so that, if we keep the rodeos to somewhere between 2.5 hours in run length, it's just the most comfortable for the fans. So if you get, like, say at Menomonee, for instance, where you got, 90 or 100 bulldoggers that steer wrestlers enter the rodeo. You can't put them all in during a given performance. So they run what's called a slack performance. And in Menomonee, for instance, it's on a Saturday morning. Well, there you can get pretty good close access. You can walk up to the fence, you can shoot there. But during the regular rodeo itself, probably not. Part of it is because of the layout of the rodeos. You don't want to be standing in front of somebody that's sitting in the stands they paid for a ticket to, and you don't want to be blocking their views.
Would you recommend, if you're going to sit in the stands, to be as high as possible?
It really helps. I guess when I've done that, just to do it, yeah, the higher you get, the better, as long as you get a long enough lens to kind of reach out to that action. It's certainly a much different viewpoint than shooting from ground level.
Sure.
Anytime you're shooting down at something, it compresses the size of it. With rodeo, being at ground level or even lower, a lot of times I'm crouching down when I'm doing stuff. The animals get a bigger than life look. And so, if you can get a lower access, it's good, but you got to get what you can get, So that's, and I guess I would recommend, if you do decide you want to go to rodeo, almost all of them, of course, have websites, contact them ahead of time and say, hey, I'm a, just an amateur photographer. I'd love to get some good pictures for your rodeo or of your rodeo. And, is it possible to get a little closer or get different access? And, they may ask for some free pictures or something like that, which, it's a heck of a little trade-off to do for you to get much better access if they'll allow it.
All right. Anybody else? I'll tell you, this is about the quickest hour I've been through in a long time. Great show.
Well, I only had about an hour or so, and I always allow for questions, but so I'm glad y'all enjoyed it. It looks like we only lost one person along the way, so that's not bad. But if any of you do have questions afterwards, I'm not hard to find. You can check me out at rodeoflix.com. That's my rodeo website. And for those of you who are PSA members, you can find access from the chapter website to me, or I don't know, on the WACO website if there's any email link to me or not, Jeff.
Yeah, I don't think so.
He's always on the digital forum, so he's always there as well. So
yep, pretty much on them. So I'm always happy to answer questions, and I appreciate you guys indulging me and watching, and I hope it was beneficial for you.
All right.
Marty, were all the pictures in the PSA journal yours?
This last journal?
Yeah.
I just got the link. I haven't even had time to look at it yet. I'm sure from the photo festival, there probably is a pile of them in there. That's quite possible.
Yeah, I figured they were probably all yours.
Yeah, I haven't had a chance to even look yet. So.
All right.
Yeah, he's also one of the official photographers for the photo festival. So you
I am the only.
You're the only one now? I know.
Yeah.
I haven't gone to many, so I wasn't sure. But so you'll see him taking pictures next time you go to the photo festival.
All right.
Colorado Springs this year. It'll be fun. Be there.
Well, thanks again, Marty. This was fantastic. Thank you very much.
Well, thanks, Joe, and thanks for having me, guys. I really appreciate it.
All right.
And thanks for letting me sit in your meeting. That's always great for me to learn from that too. So.
All right. Thank you.
Happy to have you.
All right.
Thank you.
Jeff, you got anything else to wrap up? Anybody else have any questions? Well, I guess the old saying is, c'est la vie. Good night.
Adios.
We'll see you
All
next
right,
month, guys.
Jeff, anything for me before I go?
Yeah, one quick thing. Hang on a sec.
All right.
Let me